Welcome to the NBA Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined by Nate Weitzer. He's on the East Coast, and we have some NBA best bets here for you on Tuesday with a little slate in the NBA. Also have our player props video up as we do each and every weekday, so go ahead and like and subscribe to that page and continue to follow along all season with us. We also want you to head to thelines.com, use all the info we're putting up on the site for you guys right now, and that odds finder tool that's under the NBA tab. Make sure that you're getting the best odds and juice available to you from all of these books that are giving you bets as you line shop this NBA season. Nate, let's go ahead and run right into your first best bet here. We got Minnie in Orlando.
Yeah, and Franz Wagner's out. Paolo opened up with a huge prop of 29.5 points, which has been correctly identified as way too high. I think it's down to 27.5 now.
Yes.
I would parlay the under with the Minnesota money line, indicating that, look, the Magic are not winning this game unless Paolo's able to go off. That gets you about plus 150. And I do like Minnesota to win the game. They are such a low-scoring team, and the Magic can be low-scoring as well, that I don't really love -5. So I think this is a good way to play it, to say, look, Paolo's got to be crazy good, which he was in their last couple games here, but against Denver and Atlanta and not, Minnesota, which is Rudy Gobert at the back line, and then Jaden McDaniels, all over him. And one matchup against this team in his career, Paolo had 11 points on 3 for 16 shooting. The Wolves allow the second fewest points and assists to power forwards and the fifth fewest to small forwards wherever he plays. Consider Minnesota's road struggles, if you will. It's been meeting MVPs, nothing but meeting MVPs and getting their best shot. Embiid dropped 51, SGA 34 efficiently. Luka and Kyrie both gave him 35. And the new look Knicks had a close win there. But they did dominate the Rockets physically, and then beat the Kings as well on the road. So impressive wins, and they're in a bounce back spot after their loss to 8-1 straight up after a loss. I mean, in fact, their last 13 games have been a crazy tough strength of schedule, and they're still number 4th in defensive rating. Number 3 opponents 3-point shooting and assists per game, and Orlando in these 3 since Franz went down have their highest percentage of points off threes, lowest percentage of points off twos. So they are so dependent on the 3 and on Paolo getting it done inside the arc as their one guy to break down a defense, and I just don't think he's going to be able to do it against this defense.
Nor do I. I'll talk about that more in player props for sure, but I agree entirely, and the 27.5 is way less terrifying than 29.5 for Paolo. But more importantly, for the bet that you're talking about, it's just hyper relevant that even if he gets 27, let's say, I don't trust really anybody to score on this Orlando team outside of him. That game versus Atlanta going way under with overtime, and then not even close in regulation is pretty indicative of how this Orlando team is going to play without Franz. It's really that simple. There is no other true shot creator, or I would say Markelle Fultz, when he's out there, can create for others because of the mismatch that he creates. But there's not much to like about this Orlando team. It was a good cover against Atlanta, who continues to be a wonderful fade. I believe they continue to be the worst against the spread team in the league is Atlanta. So you feel good about, you don't feel good, rather, about Orlando barely being able to beat them with the iteration of this squad that they're going to toss out there on Tuesday as well. So I love the Paolo under in general, and I really do like Minnesota to pull this one out. So it's a solid play there for plus 150 on your money. Let's go ahead and look at this Toronto and Lakers game for best bet number 2. And we both were trying to look at how to play this, but I do think that in the end, right now, unfortunately, you have to take 235 if you want to go over that total. It opened at 230 and got hammered up because it was wrong with the way that Toronto's playing now. And I know you'll talk about that a bit more too in player props, but the 235 total, I'm taking the over without Jakob Poeltl, which if you look at obviously in the and I'm really just dumbing things down to the last 4 games for this Raptors squad. It's a completely new look team. As we know, there's a lot less defense without OG Anunoby there, all NBA defensive player. And there's a lot less defense when Jakob Poeltl's not on the floor, which is what's going to be the case in this one as well. He's got the second best on-off defensive rating numbers for this team. The only guy actually with better rebounding numbers is Pascal Siakam, but I would still offer that Poeltl has more rebound chances. He's just doing more of the boxing out. So without him in there, it's just a lot less formidable down low without the size that you're going to have for him, and that's just going to speed things up. So their pace has gone all the way up Toronto into the top 10 after being a bottom 10 pace of play team, as we know on the season. They still tried to get out in transition, and they still will try to get out in transition, but the pace isn't there when the ball goes through the basket for the Lakers, and I think that's going to be happening a decent amount tonight. The defensive rating for this Raptors team has climbed all the way up to about 118 now. Good for, like I said, bottom 11 or so in the league, 119-ish, and the offensive rating all the way up, to about 124 or so with this squad, and it's looking really good the way that their assist percentage is way up as well, because they actually have a point guard on the team. No offense to Scotty Barnes, who at 6'9", I guess it's not like insulting to be like, hey, you're not Magic Johnson or LeBron James at 6'9", one of the only, two of the only guys to be able to play point guard at that size. He's still handling the ball, but IQ has the ball in his hands, right? Like Barnes is responsible for some facilitation, but with IQ in there, that's really what this comes down to, right? His on-off numbers already in the first 4 games are a pace of 103.5 when he's on the floor, right? And he's on the floor at this point for a solid 30 to 33 minutes because he is the starting point guard. He's going to be a score-first point guard. The potential assists are still just as much there for guys like Pascal, as well as who's the other one that just had a bunch of potential assists for them? I'm already blanking on it, but it was Quickly and Pascal above Scotty Barnes for sure. And either way, like for the over in this one, I don't see AD having much resistance at all. His 13.5 rebounds prop is probably pretty well placed because I do see a lot of second chance points coming for him. The stuff with the last 4 games as well for second chance points for their opponents has gone up. Their offensive rebounding has been maintained. The Raptors here, and Pirtle's doing has an impact on that. But the fact that they're also continuing to get their second chance points, they just increased they're basically the same offense with more 3-point shooting is the Raptors. And so I really wanted to take them to be able to cover against the Lakers team that has had some trouble, especially at home over the last 6 or 7 games before that win against the Clippers. But rather than try to force that without Pirtle on the floor when I think AD is going to have his way, I'll go ahead and just take the over 235.
Yeah, I mean, we did say this could be a spot for a teaser to get the Raptors up +9 and get that total back to where it was. If you can't get that opening number anywhere, but I mean, with Pirtle out, yeah, the offense should be a lot more flowy, if you will, like more 5 out, more Boucher at the 5, or whatever else they want to do to kind of take advantage of the Lakers' clunkiness or age. And the Lakers are happy to get into a higher scoring game at home against the team that's not going to have rim protection. So, yeah, I could see this kind of getting back and forth. I mean, I wanted to take overs with Quickly in the lineup no matter who they were playing. It's just like clearly everybody else was looking for that angle too because they bet it up so quick. Yep. So I got this Knicks-Blazers game, and I will, because this is best bets and we're throwing out game bets, I will say pick 2A here is the over at 227. I'm just a little concerned about the Blazers actually coming along against a Knicks team that is just so good on both ends of the floor right now. But, there is some numbers to indicate that they can score here. They score 9 more points per game with Anthony Simons in the lineup. They score 6 more when Brogdon's in the lineup. And you're going to love this one, Josh. They score 8 more when DeAndre Ayton is not in the lineup. And, not to pile on him because actually their defense has been much worse without DeAndre Ayton as well. So yeah, I mean, their last 14 here, they have a 122.5 defensive rating. Take away 2 against Phoenix, which is crazy to say. Like Phoenix is the outlier of terrible offenses in that stretch. They have a 125 defensive rating, and they're giving up 123.5 on the road. Knicks team total is 120.5 tonight. And I think they'll be hovering around that for sure. I just think, yeah, so as long as you get Portland to be in the range of covering, that this is going to go over. The new look Knicks are hitting 15 threes at 40%. They are number 2 in fast break efficiency, which was not a thing prior to getting OJ in there and scoring off turnovers, etc. And their defense, like Hartenstein, he's not allowing anything at the rim, but Portland does score a high percentage of points off threes, especially with Simons in there. Simons has shot really well against the Knicks his last 30 points per game. A lot of threes. And I mean, that is part 2 of my bet here, which is just a player prop on Hartenstein to keep getting his points and boards, 21.5. I mean, what do you want to say? Yeah, it basically had 20 boards in 2 of the last 4 with this new look team. The only time he's gone under this, even close to under this, was against the big Wolves he had a 45% defensive rebounding rate against Washington. So if Portland starts throwing up bricks because they can't score on this team, he's going to eat. And they do allow the most points per game to centers in their last 7 since Ayton's been out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the only thing you worry about with the Knicks is like the Blazers' good 3-point defense. There does seem to be a pretty high correlation between the Knicks even attempting threes and the Knicks winning, right? Like in their wins with the 3-point from the 3-point arc, they're shooting 42% versus 32% in their losses. You're always going to find a better percentage, right? When you win, obviously, like that's obvious. You make more shots, you win more games. But 9 threes even made or attempted is a wild disparity, and the makes there as well. 4 more when they're when they're winning right now. I do think that this has a win written all over it for them. I don't see the Blazers being the thing that sort of disrupts this moving train. Like OG was the dude that you needed on this squad, right? Like Josh Hart, Dante DiVincenzo, really nice sort of Swiss Army knife players. OG's the dude, right? Like if you can guard 1 through 5 and you're not an undersized dude like Hart and DiVincenzo are, and you're actually able to hit those corner threes, unlike RJ Barrett was, although RJ all of a sudden turned into a 3-point shooter after he had 33 the other night against the Dubs. That was an anomaly, by the way. But either way, I'm with the Knicks continuing to score. Maybe look at their team total as well, because I don't think that they'll slow down if the Blazers don't come along. But I could see the Blazers coming along if they hit their threes. To your point, Anthony Simons is a good archetype of player to be able to score on the Knicks. So let's go to a game that I'm not expecting a lot of scoring, and that's Dallas and Memphis. And we should mention that Ja Morant is out for the season. Not great for basketball. Wish him as speedy recovery as possible so he can be back for next year, but he's going to be sitting out the rest of this year. So now we're back to the Memphis Grizzlies of pre-Ja Morant this season. And what that means is unders. So under 234.5 against this Dallas team, who will be missing Derek Lively, who I would definitely think would have would have a solid impact anyway, at least being able to bang more so with Jaren Jackson Jr. And without him, I actually think Triple J, not the real Triple J, because that's Jaime Jaquez, but Jaren Jackson Jr., I do think that he's in line for a decent game. He's had some back-to-back monster games, and I don't think he's the most consistent player in the world, but this is going to be another good matchup with Dallas not having much defense down low. That said, like if he's your offensive go-to, right, it's going to be a different case. Like their pace is faster with Ja. They're scoring nearly 7 more points per game with Ja this season. They're essentially, if you don't want to call them the worst offense without Ja Morant, you can say they're bottom 5. And they have Marcus Smart back, and Marcus has actually equaled a bit more offense and pace for them in their last 4 games since he's come back. At the same time, their defensive ratings right back down to about 112.5. And with Ja out there, it does go up a bit, unsurprisingly. Not that he's a totally bad defensive player. He can still get steals and get out on the break. But the focus definitely goes a lot more from we can't afford to give up baskets because we don't have offense to we can, be a little bit less lackadaisical on or more lackadaisical on defense because Ja's in there to save us. So the pace, the points, Dallas has been going under a bit more at home, even with Kairuka both out there. Like I don't want to go too crazy here. They've got some games where they scored 139 points, right, on some bad teams. But when you look at the good defenses that they've played at home, including this Memphis Grizzlies team, we're talking about 233 total at Memphis, a 202 total versus Memphis with no Luka. And then recently they played Cleveland at home, 223 total. Same with Minnesota in this last game, 223 total for them as they pulled that one out against the Timberwolves. I think it's much of the same. Grant Williams being back does help their offense. He does play really well in that pick and roll a bit more. But like I said, without Derek Lively, without a rim runner, I don't think Dwight Powell is going to have much luck in this game versus the Grizzlies down low with the 3 different centers they're going to be throwing at this Mavs team. So under 234.5, I don't want to just base it entirely on the fact that like last time this went well under at Dallas in this season because Luka wasn't in that game, and he's got the gravitational pull of a sun, so it doesn't really matter that game as precedence. But like I said, back to Memphis ball with 100 roughly 12 defensive rating in their last 4 games, back up to 8th best in the league, with that offensive rating also dropping back down. So some more Marcus Smart plays tonight should be a little bit more defense against Luka and company, and we'll take the under 234 here.
Yeah, would you rather take Dallas under 121.5 or Memphis under 113.5?
Probably. Man, it's like Dallas's defense just doesn't inspire any confidence, to be honest with you. So I think it's 50-50. I think I'm just going for the game total. Do you prefer a team in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're following your logic, I think you take the Dallas under, just saying like neither team's going to be in the 120s here. Memphis is just going to impose their will. I mean, you look at the game log, yeah, Luka has missed a couple of these games, but I mean, Dallas has only scored, only topped that total twice in their last, maybe like in the last 3-4 seasons here
Yeah.
against Memphis. So it is kind of an organizational, exerting their will. And with Marcus Smart out there, you maybe do a pretty good job on Luca because he wasn't really out there the last time when this game got to 233.
Right.
So now he is and he's healthy.
Yeah, a lot more Derrick Rose when these games were going over, which we won't see him tonight. So that is all the time we have for you in Best Bets. Continue to follow along, like and subscribe to that page. Check out the Playa Props that we're also bringing you each and every weekday. And until we see you next, happy betting.